The enemy often moves before they think. They believe the first blow is strength. They confuse motion with clarity, noise with influence, speed with victory. But I have learned that silence draws the blade faster than shouting. In every war I have studied, the one who watched longest saw deepest. The one who acted last often acted best. Stillness is not inaction. It is preparation. It is the patience that sharpens every edge unseen, the quiet that draws your opponent into the light while you remain in the shadows, watching. I do not rise to every provocation. I do not answer every signal. I do not follow the sound of drums like cattle drawn to slaughter. When I do not move, it is not fear. It is calculation. The world teaches men to react. I teach them to observe. Before you speak, know the cost of sound. Before you strike, understand the recoil of your own force. Every movement exposes you. Every sound reveals you. What they call weakness is often the final shield of a master tactician. Those who rush believe in strength without shape. They draw their sword in sunlight and expect awe. But a blade held too long in light grows dull by vanity. The hidden blade never forgets its edge. To know war is to know the terrain of human impulse, pride, fear, ambition, vengeance. I have learned to let my enemy arrive first, to show me who they are in their pursuit of who I am. Let them come. Let them move. Let them speak. Let them mistake your silence for sleep. Stillness is not absence. It is restraint. A general without restraint is a storm without purpose. A warrior must carry stillness like a weapon, not to resist the world, but to read it. When men shout, I listen. When armies march, I watch the dust. When kings threaten, I study the silence behind their words. Power that needs to be displayed is already decaying. Real strength waits. True command does not need to announce itself. It sits quietly, choosing the moment. Those who study war often look at weapons, at numbers, at maps. But I study men, the way they wait, the way they respond to threat, the way they disguise fear as fury, the way their confidence cracks when no answer comes. To know how a man reacts to silence is to know where he will break. To test a man, say nothing and see what fills the void. His panic will draw his strategy. His impatience will reveal his defeat. Stillness is not static. It listens. It moves without moving. It prepares 1,000 options while appearing empty. In battle, I have stood still longer than any army could understand. I have let them surround me. I have let them feel triumphant. And only when they exhaled in comfort did I strike, like wind from an unseen mountain, without warning, without waste. I do not honor the first move. I honor the last blow. You may win the beginning and still lose the end. The river that bends quietly wears down the rock. So I let their strength pass over me like water. I do not stop it. I do not fight it. I receive it. And once it believes I have drowned, I rise behind it, unshaken. This is not passivity. It is design. It is the art of shaping war without being shaped by it. To master war is not to fight better, but to be moved less. The enemy must not change your character. He must reveal it. If your mind shifts with the tide, then you are the tide, not the shore. If you respond to every insult, you belong to your enemy. Let them shout. Let them mock. Let them swing wildly. Their exhaustion is my strategy. Their noise is my shield. I wait not to escape. I wait to choose. The greatest counterattack begins with stillness. Not because I fear the enemy, but because I no longer fear myself. Those who fear their own weakness rush to strike first, hoping no one notices the fracture in their foundation. But I sit with my weakness. I know its face. I do not rush to hide it, because I have trained longer than fear can whisper. When your own silence no longer frightens you, you become dangerous to every man who cannot bear it. Many warriors lose not from lack of skill, but from lack of pause. They step forward when they should observe. They argue when they should let the wind speak. Stillness is not admired by the foolish. It is mistaken for hesitation, for cowardice. But the wise know. The deeper the stillness, the sharper the strike. Stillness is stored momentum. It is pressure made into poise. When I do not move, I am everywhere. War is not won by action alone. It is won by invisible decisions, made in silence, under no light, long before the field is drawn. The map is in the mind, not the soil, and the mind must be still, or it will blur every line of the terrain. When I face chaos, I do not match it. I return to stillness, because from stillness, I see all. From stillness, I hear the lies in their commands. From stillness, I watch empires overreach and collapse beneath their own pride. You must understand, stillness is not withdrawal. It is positioning. It is knowing when not to be seen and when to appear as if rising from the earth itself. Every move I make is preceded by 100 unmoved decisions. Every step forward began in silence. To rush is to die unaware. To pause is to see further than speed can reach. Let them come, full of fire and noise. Let them believe you are outnumbered. Let them believe they hold the upper hand. Then do nothing, say nothing, wait. And in their rising confidence, they will lower their guard. In their noise, they will miss your movement. In their haste, they will pass you by. Stillness is the weapon that cannot be parried, because it is not seen, only felt once it's too late. You are not preparing for war if you are always preparing to act. You are only rehearsing distraction. The mind that seeks constant motion is not a strategist, but a slave to reaction. To see the battlefield clearly, I first clear myself. I remove the noise, the urgency, the pull of pride and vengeance. I sit until all that remains is the truth, that nothing external commands me. No army, no king, no cry for retaliation. I choose the hour. I define the terms. I make the enemy dance to a rhythm they cannot hear because it begins within me. There is a point in every conflict when silence becomes unbearable to the weak. They will speak to fill the emptiness. They will reveal intentions, show their hand, betray their formations with impatience. I have never feared the clever enemy, only the quiet one. The man who watches long and speaks little. The one who waits while you burn your own fuel. He is not absent. He is already at war with you, and he is winning. Do not fear retreat. It is not the opposite of advance. It is a form of movement that serves a different strategy. I have withdrawn from battle many times, not because I was weak, but because I knew where strength would arrive. A well-timed retreat is not escape. It is preservation of control. To withdraw is not to give up ground, but to give up illusion. It is to force your enemy to extend, and the longer they stretch, the thinner they become. Victory is often hidden in what you do not do. I do not always destroy the enemy. Sometimes I destroy their will. Sometimes I let them win small battles to teach them arrogance. Sometimes I give them space, and they fill it with their own mistakes. The battlefield is not made of weapons and maps. It is made of minds. The weakest mind is the loudest. The strongest mind is the one that holds still when all others are thrashing in doubt. The strategist is not measured by the number of battles fought, but by the number of battles avoided. Not every engagement deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your sword. I have defeated armies without a single arrow fired, because I understood their leaders better than they understood themselves. Stillness is not just a shield, it is a mirror. It reflects their need to dominate, to hurry, to conquer, to prove. And when their own reflection disturbs them, they stumble. They retreat not from me, but from their own unmet expectations. You do not need to be feared to win. You need to be unreadable. Let them wonder where you are. Let them question why you haven't struck. Let them prepare for an attack that never comes, and in that waiting, they will decay. I have turned entire campaigns to dust without ever appearing on the battlefield. Because the moment you become predictable, you become prey. Stillness makes you invisible. Invisibility makes you dangerous. The more noise they make, the more exposed they are. I do not interrupt them. I let them perform. I let them explain. I let them declare. And while they empty themselves in sound, I fill myself with silence. This is the paradox of power. Those who must show it, lack it. Those who need to convince others are unconvinced themselves. Stillness is my conviction. I do not explain it. I do not defend it. I live it. Your enemy will try to provoke you, not because they are strong, but because they are uncertain. They cannot bear your quiet because it forces them to listen to their own mind. A disordered mind fears silence more than death, because in silence, the mask drops. The lies fade. The true condition of their spirit is revealed. And when they panic in that emptiness, they lash out. That is the moment you strike, not to destroy, but to define. True timing is not marked by clocks. It is felt in the pulse of the opponent, in the tremor before they speak, in the hesitation before they act. I do not count time, I weigh it, and when the scale tips, I move. Not a second sooner, not a step more than needed. A single arrow in the right moment is worth 1,000 strikes in chaos. Precision is born in patience. Patience is born in stillness. This is the chain of power. Discipline is not obeying others, it is mastering yourself. The world will always push, pull, shout, tempt, rush. But if you hold to your axis, unmoved, unshaken, then the world moves around you, not through you. Stillness is the axis. From it, all motion is measured. Without it, all movement is disorder. Even the strongest strike, if born from frenzy, breaks upon stillness. I do not fear chaos. I respect it. I study it. And then I become the calm that makes it lose meaning. In a world of panic, stillness becomes the loudest signal. In the heart of disorder, clarity becomes lethal. I do not need to overpower my enemy. I only need to outlast their illusions. And nothing dissolves illusion faster than silence. Let them plan. Let them rehearse. Let them speak of domination. I will be still. I will listen. I will know them better than they know themselves. And when the hour comes, I will not arrive with noise. I will arrive with inevitability. Because stillness is not absence. It is arrival without warning. There is no greater fear than facing an opponent who does not flinch, who does not rush, who does not answer your chaos with chaos. That is the power of stillness. Not to deny war, but to define it. Not to avoid conflict, but to shape it from the quietest place in the mind. I have made kings retreat with a glance. I have broken armies without raising my voice. Because stillness is not passive. It is sovereign. You will be told that war belongs to the bold. But I tell you this, war belongs to the one who does not move until movement is truth. War belongs to the one who waits long enough for the fog to lift. War belongs to the one who controls the silence before he controls the field. The greatest strength is the strength that does not show itself until needed. It leaves no trace, offers no warning, makes no demand for recognition. Stillness wears no armor, but nothing pierces it. Stillness makes no threats, yet every enemy senses its presence. When I walk the battlefield in my mind, I do not hear the clash of weapons. I hear the quiet before the first mistake. That is where war begins. Not in the clash, but in the crack that forms inside an unguarded mind. Control is not grasping tighter. Control is releasing what does not serve you. The general who needs to react to everything loses sight of the whole. The one who does less sees more. I have trained myself to do nothing unless it is everything, to speak only when silence has served its purpose. To move only when not moving would be more dangerous. Most men try to control the world by force. I shape it by refusal. I decline chaos its invitation. I let it run its course, then step forward once it is tired. You may wonder how stillness can command armies, but the answer is this. Men do not follow voices. They follow certainty. And certainty speaks with no urgency, no noise. It moves like stone beneath water, not in speed, but in permanence. My soldiers have stood beside me in silence, not because I shouted orders, but because my calm gave them vision. A commander who wavers sends tremors into every hand that holds a sword. But a commander who waits with eyes like winter, that is the anchor of an army. Many believe discipline is forged in shouting, repetition, and obedience. But I say the root of discipline is stillness. A soldier who cannot be still cannot aim. A mind that cannot be still cannot choose. Before the weapon is drawn, the mind must be steady. Before the arrow is loosed, the breath must be quiet. If you tremble at rest, you will collapse in motion. Therefore, I train stillness before strength. I train clarity before courage. Stillness does not mean avoidance. I do not avoid conflict. I meet it only when I have shaped the terms. I do not fear attack. I prepare for it in stillness so thoroughly that by the time it comes, it arrives too late. I have already calculated its reach, traced its path, found its emptiness. By the time their blow lands, I am no longer there. And my return comes not with fury, but with inevitability. This is the art, to be absent at the peak of their strength and present at the depth of their fatigue. When you are still, you become unpredictable. Not because you are random, but because your timing belongs to no rhythm but your own. Your opponent will guess, overthink, mistrust his own instincts. He will try to read you, but find only silence. And in that silence, his confidence will dissolve. The clever strategist removes certainty from his enemy, not through confusion, but through restraint. Let them guess where you are, why you wait, when you will come. Their own thoughts will become their undoing. You do not win because you move faster. You win because you know when to move and when to wait. Most battles are lost before they begin, not in weapons, but in misjudgment. Misjudgment comes from haste. Haste is born from fear. Stillness starves fear. I let it die before I take the first step. That is why my steps are final. I walk only where the outcome already favors me. My opponent believes the fight begins when we clash, but by then, I have already won. There is no glory in noise. There is no wisdom in haste. There is only clarity in stillness. If you want to hear the truth, wait until the world is quiet. If you want to see the enemy, do not chase him. Wait until he reveals himself. If you want to strike, first remove all impulse. Then your action will be pure, like water finding its lowest point. Inevitable, effortless, complete. Most men live in reaction. They are struck not by enemies, but by their own reflexes. They hear a threat, they raise a weapon. They feel insulted, they lash out. They see weakness, they charge. But none of these are choices. They are patterns, and patterns can be seen, broken, used. Stillness removes you from the pattern. It gives you space to choose. In that space, you gain mastery, not just over others, but over yourself. To fight with discipline is to fight with patience, to wait without losing sharpness, to prepare without needing applause. Stillness is not a pause. It is a gathering of force. Like an archer drawing the bow, holding it steady while the enemy wonders if the arrow will fly. The longer you hold, the more you control the terms, but only if your arm does not shake. That is the test, not the shot, the weight. When I am still, I see everything, not just the enemy's soldiers, but his doubt, not just his plan, but his pride, not just his strength, but the crack beneath it. And when I see the crack, I do not strike it immediately. I wait until he leans on it. Then it becomes a collapse, not a wound. I do not interrupt the process. I let his own weight break him. That is the strategy of stillness, not resistance, but revelation. Many believe that war is about destroying the enemy, but the wiser goal is to remove the need for war, and that begins with removing the need to prove. I do not strike to prove power. I strike because it is time. Time is not found in the sky. It is felt in the pulse of the field, in the rhythm of breath, in the shift of wind before the dust rises. Time reveals itself to those who are still. If you chase it, it hides. If you wait, it knocks. My silence is not emptiness. It is readiness. It is the echo chamber where false moves collapse before they are made. It is the clearing where instinct becomes insight. It is the place where fear exhausts itself and only intent remains. Stillness is the forge of strategy. Without it, every plan is noise on a map. You will face those who mistake motion for power. Let them. You will face those who mock silence. Let them speak. You will face those who laugh at your patience. Let them exhaust themselves in ridicule. Their judgment is noise. Your stillness is signal. What endures does not need to be seen to be known. What is real does not need to be loud to shape the world. A single moment of stillness can alter the entire arc of conflict. It is the breath before the blade, the step back that changes the strike, the hesitation that reveals the truth. I have watched men lose their lives because they could not be still for one breath longer. They moved before the arrow flew. They spoke before the lie collapsed. They believed stillness was surrender. They never lived long enough to see it strike. In a world where everything demands a reaction, the one who refuses becomes the master of attention. You shift the frame by not entering it. You create space where others suffocate. While they seek dominance, you observe imbalance. While they chase victory, you position for certainty. And when the dust clears, you are not wounded, not spent, not weakened, but ready. Stillness is not the absence of force. It is the refinement of it. Fire can rage and consume, or it can forge. The same flame, The difference is control, and control comes from stillness. The mind that moves too quickly burns through strategy. The mind that waits burns nothing until it chooses. And when it does, it leaves no waste. To live without stillness is to live at the mercy of wind. You will be blown in every direction, by threat, by desire, by fear, by praise. You will move, yes, but never toward yourself. You will be used as a weapon in someone else's war. You will be praised for speed, but never respected for depth. Stillness anchors you. It tells you who you are before the world tells you who to be. I have seen rulers who governed empires but could not govern their breath. I have seen warriors with unmatched skill who crumbled under silence. I have seen men train their bodies for decades but never train their stillness for a day. And I have seen the quiet one among them walk away without a scar. It is not mystery, it is mastery. Stillness is the first form of power and the last form of defense. The blade that rests is no less sharp. The archer who waits is no less deadly. The general who does not speak is no less in command. Power unexpressed is not weakness. It is potential waiting for alignment. A lion is no less lethal when it sleeps. In fact, it is more dangerous because it has chosen peace. But if it wakes, it does not ask permission. If you build your strength only on movement, then injury will undo you. But if you build your strength on stillness, nothing can remove it, because it does not depend on action. It is a state of being. It is strategy that lives in the marrow. It is not something you do. It is something you are. Stillness is not a pause between moments. It is the condition from which all true moments arise. Learn to observe without needing to interpret. Learn to wait without needing to be seen. Learn to listen without preparing your answer. This is stillness. It is not passive, it is surgical. It is the scalpel beneath the robe, the bowstring under no tension, the command before sound. It is what separates the brute from the strategist, the fighter from the warrior, the movement from the moment. Stillness is a form of courage. It is the willingness to face the space between knowing and acting. It is where most men break. They cannot sit with doubt, with absence, with the echo of their own uncertainty. So they fill it with action, with sound, with desperate movements. But the one who remains still, who allows that emptiness to clarify instead of frighten, that one becomes precise. I do not teach stillness to avoid defeat. I teach it because it is undefeated. Noise can be outmatched. Speed can be overtaken. Strength can be broken. But stillness, when true, is untouched. You cannot fight what does not rise to fight you. You cannot trap what moves in the mind, not the body. You cannot beat what never enters the game on your terms. It is easy to mistake silence for absence, but silence is a presence you cannot control. It is a reflection you cannot distort. It is a weight that sits inside your strategy, questioning every step. And if you are not ready, it will undo you long before battle begins. I have won wars in the minds of my enemies without lifting a weapon, simply by mastering the terrain of their expectation. Stillness is not a tactic. It is a terrain. If you do not know how to live in it, you will slip. You will bring your noise into a place that rejects it. You will fall into your own echoes, and the enemy, if he knows stillness, will already be behind you. Not in body, but in mind. He has already occupied the space you fled from. When the enemy is louder, be quieter. When he is faster, be more precise. When he is reckless, become still. Do not match disorder with disorder. That is not victory, that is mirroring. And to mirror chaos is to surrender to it. Stillness is the refusal to imitate your enemy. It is the discipline to remain yourself, even in the heat of confusion. Especially then. The final battle is not with others. It is with the part of you that cannot wait. The part that wants to rush, to shout, to prove, to be seen. That is the enemy. And stillness defeats it not by confrontation, but by dissolving it. You do not silence this part with force. You starve it of attention. You wait. And what is false cannot survive waiting. The art of stillness is not learned in noise. It is forged in solitude. Long before the battlefield, I sat with nothing but the wind. I studied the rhythm of leaves, the pause between thunder and rain, the moment before a hawk descends. In those silences, I found the blueprint of war. The earth does not hurry. The river bends without fear. The mountain does not announce its weight, and yet it shapes the sky. From these, I learned not to rush. I learned to be present without force, to wait without fear, to lead without noise. You will be tempted to act, not because it is time, but because others expect you to. You will feel the pressure to speak, to move, to retaliate. And yet the moment you yield to their rhythm, you abandon your own. That is the beginning of defeat. The wise warrior shapes the tempo. The fool dances to it. I do not move unless the ground beneath my feet demands it. I do not speak unless silence has made my words heavier than swords. I do not strike unless the opening is already open, not forced, but offered. The enemy does not fear your sword. He fears your invisibility. He fears that you are unmoved. Because to face someone who does not react is to face the unknown. The unknown is terror to the impatient, and in their fear, they strike wildly. They overreach. They exhaust. That is when the door opens. Not when they are strong, but when they believe they are. Not when they are ready, but when they think you are not. Stillness is not distance. It is depth. You may be near and still untouched, surrounded and still unshaken, outnumbered and still unbreakable. Because stillness does not live in space. It lives in awareness. It is the warrior's inner territory, the place no scout can chart, no spy can infiltrate, no weapon can reach. When you master this territory, no battlefield can truly surprise you, for you have already faced the greatest chaos, the noise within, and made it quiet. Many warriors train their hands, few train their breath, fewer still train their thoughts, but the rarest of all train their attention. Where your attention rests, your strength flows. If your attention scatters, your power bleeds. Stillness is the discipline of full attention. It is presence without distraction. It is the act of seeing without naming, of knowing without reacting. And from that ground, your decisions become pure. Not because they are perfect, but because they are chosen, not pulled. You may lose the battle. You may lose the position. You may even lose the weapon. But if you do not lose stillness, you remain dangerous. Because stillness is not a tool. It is your center. From it, new strategies rise. From it, mistakes become teaching. From it, retreat becomes maneuver. As long as you remain still within, no loss is final. No setback is complete. I have faced moments where death was inches away, where the line of retreat was cut, where the sky itself looked down in silence. And in those moments, I returned to stillness. Not to hide, to sharpen, not to wait for rescue, to hear the next command from within. And in that silence, a new path opened. It always does, for those who can stop long enough to see it. The one who can be still while surrounded is not trapped. He is listening. He is learning. He is planning what others cannot yet imagine. The trap belongs to the restless. The cage belongs to those who must act. The truly free are not the loudest. They are the stillest. Because stillness carries no leash. It is not provoked, not moved, not bent. It is ungoverned by chaos. The highest form of warfare is not to win by force. It is to win without contest. And this cannot be done through action alone. It requires the mastery of presence. When you can stand before the storm and not move, you have already won. Not over others, over yourself. And the one who conquers himself cannot be enslaved by the patterns of the world. Stillness is more than strategy. It is truth, a mirror that cannot be broken, a reflection that shows what noise conceals, and most cannot bear that. They will attack you for your quiet. They will call you distant, cold, disloyal, weak. Let them. They speak from fear. Your stillness exposes their instability, and what is exposed will fight to survive. But do not defend your stillness. Guard it. Return to it. Let others thrash in the tide. You are the sea floor. Let them build noise above you. You are the bedrock. Let them call you late. You are beyond their clock. Let them say you hesitate. You are not hesitating. You are shaping the field. There will come a time when stillness is no longer seen as strength. The world will value spectacle over substance, shouting over silence, speed over wisdom. In such a time, the still will become rare, and therefore more powerful. Let others rush to be seen. You remain to be remembered. Let others arrive quickly. You arrive when it matters. Let others burn bright. You burn steady. Stillness is your first counterattack. It is the place you begin when the world pulls, the posture you return to after every blow, the discipline you carry in a land without discipline. Hold it, practice it, return to it until it becomes breath. Then no war will ever truly surprise you again. Do not confuse delay with defeat. Do not confuse stillness with surrender. In war, as in life, those who endure unseen often shape what is seen. The loud strike fades quickly. The quiet pressure shifts the mountain. I have sat beneath the weight of armies without drawing my sword, because I knew their weight would one day collapse inward. Noise cannot carry itself forever. Force without aim exhausts itself. And stillness, patient and unmarked, remains. I do not chase opportunity. I let it ripen. A green fruit picked early is bitter. A strategy forced too soon will rot under pressure. Time is not your enemy. It is your blacksmith. Stillness places your steel into the fire of waiting and draws it out stronger. Those who cannot wait must fight with brittle weapons. But if you wait long enough, the world gives you something sharper than steel: perspective. If you are to lead, do not teach your followers only to move. Teach them to pause. Teach them to see. Teach them the discipline of doing nothing until action is necessary. A soldier who moves on impulse is no different from the wind, directionless, temporary. But a soldier who learns to be still, even in the heart of danger, becomes an extension of clarity. In him, chaos finds its limit. When I train men, I watch how they breathe. I listen to how they speak in silence. I observe whether their eyes dart or rest. The body is a map, but the mind is the compass, and the compass must not spin. I teach stillness not to freeze them, but to anchor them. For in the storm, nothing holds like what does not move. And in battle, You are either the storm or the anchor that renders it useless. You do not need to answer every call. You do not need to enter every dispute. The urge to respond is often the tactic of your opponent. The wise commander listens to provocation as a doctor listens to a cough, not to be disturbed, but to diagnose. Most threats reveal themselves more fully when left alone. Words grow careless in silence. Plans expose themselves when they are not interrupted. Let them speak. Let them act. Let their momentum reveal its curve. You do not need to stop them. Just be ready when they reach the bend. There is no advantage in being first to strike, only in being last to fall. Many will boast of their speed. Let them. Many will brag of their size. Let them. Stillness needs neither. Stillness waits for their speed to become waste, for their size to become burden. Then it becomes the blade in the dark, not seen, but felt. And by the time they understand, the field has changed. To remain still under fire is not natural. It must be trained. It must be chosen 1,000 times before the moment of need. Do not wait for crisis to find your stillness. Cultivate it in ordinary hours. Practice silence when there is no noise. Practice patience when no one tests you. That is where mastery begins. The master is not created by battle. He is revealed by it. Let the world look at you and wonder. Let them misread your silence as doubt, your patience as indecision. That is part of the strategy. The unseen advantage is always greater than the known strength. I have allowed enemies to believe they were winning, just long enough for their guard to lower, their pride to rise. That moment between belief and reality is where I strike, not with anger, with design. If you are still only to rest, you are not still, you are pausing. If you are still only to escape, you are not still, you are hiding. True stillness has no motive. It simply is. It does not seek outcome. It holds position until outcome seeks it. That is why it cannot be exhausted, outpaced, or deceived. It waits beneath appearance. It sees beyond motion. You will feel pressure to prove you are doing something, to speak, to post, to show movement. But remember, most who demand proof are unsure of their own foundation. You do not owe movement to a world addicted to chaos. You owe truth to yourself. And truth, like iron, is silent under heat. It does not scream. It does not perform. It simply endures until it reshapes what surrounds it. Stillness is not stagnation. A stagnant mind festers. A still mind clears. Stillness breathes. It moves inward while the world rushes outward. It listens while the world shouts. It chooses while the world reacts. And in doing so, it becomes the axis upon which real power turns. If your stillness begins to decay into numbness, awaken it. If it becomes comfort, sharpen it. Stillness must not make you soft. It must make you precise. I do not fear being misunderstood. That is the cost of clarity. The more still you become, the less others can place you. The less they can place you, the more they project their fear onto you. Let them. Their confusion is your camouflage. Their assumptions, your armor. Let them act on illusion. You act on truth. All strength decays if not anchored in something deeper than force. That anchor is stillness. Without it, every victory becomes noise. Every loss becomes identity. But when you return to stillness, you are not swayed by gain or loss. You remain intact. You retain your blade. And from that unshaken position, you strike only when the strike writes history. There are moments when war is not about armies or terrain, but about the ability to wait 1 second longer than your opponent, 1 second without flinching, 1 second without rushing. That second is where advantage is born. I have stood on the edge of defeat, watching an enemy believe the moment was his. I watched him reach too soon, speak too early, claim too much, and in that gap, I moved. That gap was carved not by luck, but by stillness. The enemy cannot enter a space you do not create. When you react, you open yourself. When you resist prematurely, you reveal your shape. But when you are still, you are formless. And what has no form cannot be cornered, cannot be struck. This is why I train not only soldiers, but shadows. Warriors who know how to hold their position without appearing to. Fighters who do not signal their readiness. Commanders whose plans have no outline until it is too late to stop them. Stillness blinds the impatient. They see calm and think you are unarmed. They see silence and assume you are deaf. They see a delay and believe they are winning. Let them. For every wrong assumption is another inch of rope they pull around their own neck. Do not correct them. Do not educate your enemy in the middle of war. Let them build the lie they want to believe. And when that lie breaks, let them fall into the truth they could not prepare for. I have no interest in being admired. I have no use for applause. Let others fight to be praised. I fight to be finished. I want no celebration when I act, only clarity that the action was necessary, final, complete. Stillness does not beg to be noticed. It works beneath attention, like roots beneath stone, like gravity beneath water. Its power is not in spectacle. It is in inevitability. You must understand, stillness does not protect you from all harm. It protects you from harm that arises from within. You may still be attacked. Stillness cannot stop the arrow, but it can ensure you do not fire one without meaning. It can ensure that your response is measured, pure, refined by silence. A still mind can fall in battle, but it never dies confused, and that is the deeper victory. To lead others, lead yourself first into stillness. Show them what it means to breathe through pressure, to pause before decision, to answer not with noise, but with presence. Presence commands without force. It shapes without pushing. It breaks through confusion, not by domination, but by being a reference point. Steady, unwavering, quiet. A man who is truly present will be followed even without speech. You are not here to win every battle. You are here to win the ones that matter. The rest is noise. The rest is vanity. Choose your war carefully. And when you choose, do not enter it with a divided mind. Do not enter with the need to be seen or vindicated. Enter with the stillness of someone who has already resolved the outcome within. That is how you command the field. If you must speak, speak last. Let others exhaust their breath. Let them form their arguments, defend their pride, declare their certainty. Let them show you their entire position. Then, if necessary, speak. One word from stillness weighs more than 100 from ego. One sentence spoken after full observation has more impact than volumes of unmeasured noise. Speak like you strike, only when it ends something. The enemy who cannot wait will make the first mistake. The general who must be noticed will step out of his plan. The soldier who must feel in control will reach beyond safety. The mind that cannot remain still will begin to fight ghosts, and ghosts cannot be conquered. They will swing until they are breathless and fall, never knowing what struck them. Let them. You stay seated, you stay aware. I do not teach the easy path. I do not promise that stillness feels powerful at first. It does not. It feels invisible. It feels like hunger. It feels like surrender, but only to the part of you that still lives in reaction. Starve that part. Train beyond it. And what remains is not emptiness. It is precision. Stillness is the refinement of all strength into its purest edge. It is not broad, but sharp. It does not scatter. It strikes once, and that is enough. You may stand alone in your stillness. So be it. The deeper the discipline, the fewer will understand it. Stillness is not a crowd strategy. It is the walk of the singular, the weapon of the few. But those who master it bend the battlefield to them. They do not need numbers. They do not need momentum. They need only time. And time, like all things, bends to stillness. You will be tested, not by war alone, but by everything that tries to pull you out of yourself. Anger, praise, urgency, ambition, insult. These are the true opponents, not because they strike you, but because they ask you to leave your position. Do not. Stay. Return. Root yourself in the silence before strategy, the pause before truth. Let others fly. You anchor. Stillness is not the absence of battle. It is the place from which you choose which battle is worthy. That is command. That is the victory before action. That is the discipline that outlives the sword. There is a reason stillness cannot be bought, cannot be inherited, cannot be gifted. It must be earned through exposure to the unrelenting pull of chaos and the repeated choice not to move. Over time, the storms no longer shake you, not because they are less fierce, but because you no longer grant them entry. You do not resist them. You absorb nothing. You respond to nothing. And from this unmovable state, you begin to see what others never will. Stillness does not live in the body. It lives in the decision behind the body. You can be still even while walking through fire, because fire outside means nothing if your breath remains unshaken. The battlefield respects this. It senses it. It tilts toward the one who does not break formation in the face of pressure. I have seen men charge blindly into flames because their leader lost control of his own heart. And I have seen armies halt their destruction because a single man stood unmoved before them. The world teaches you to match energy. That is the fastest way to be captured by it. I teach you to contain yours. Do not match the energy of anger. It will become your master. Do not match the speed of fools. You will trip at their pace. Do not meet fire with fire. Meet it with form. Stay grounded. Stay deliberate. When they rush forward, you are already beside them. When they look back, you are already ahead. This is the geometry of stillness. It folds space, bends time, reverses force. What others call delay, I call preparation. What they call passivity, I call conservation. What they label indifference is often intelligence observing its moment. There is no advantage in being early if your enemy does not yet exist. There is no glory in racing to the wrong hill. Move only when the moment demands you. Then move with finality, with precision, with a calm so sharp it frightens those who expected thunder and saw lightning instead. I do not promise stillness will give you comfort. It will not. It will ask you to confront everything you hide behind urgency. It will surface the reasons you speak too often, act too soon, explain too much. It will expose the emptiness behind your motions. And once it does, you will be tempted to run. Don't. That moment, where the noise dies and you hear your own pulse, that is where your second life begins. The disciplined life. the strategic life. The life that no longer needs to rush because it sees. Stillness is not silence. It is selective sound. It is the discipline to hear only what matters, to hear the breath beneath the scream, the pause behind the insult, the insecurity beneath the rage. It is the sharpening of perception until distraction dies. When your hearing becomes this refined, you will hear the battle shift before the first sword is raised. You will sense withdrawal before the flag falls. You will detect collapse in the tone of their speech. And you will act, not with haste, but with certainty. Most men fear boredom, so they fill every moment. But the warrior learns that boredom is simply the space before insight. Most flee from it. I sit in it. I let it strip away the unnecessary. And once the noise is gone, what remains is the real terrain, the truth beneath the illusion. Strategy that arises from this terrain does not require validation. It carries its own logic, and it does not fail. When you master stillness, you no longer wait out of fear. You wait out of dominance. You do not delay because you lack strength. You delay because you do not need to use it yet. This is the apex of power, when your restraint carries more weight than their violence. When your refusal to move unsettles their entire campaign. They expected resistance. They did not expect a mirror. You will know your stillness is true when others begin to overreact to it. When they speak more quickly, plan more loudly, move more chaotically. They will say, "You are cold." They will say, "You are arrogant." But what they truly mean is, you are not reacting to their script. And if you do not follow the script, you become dangerous, because you are no longer in the play. You are writing it. Stillness is the beginning of every ambush, the root of every feint, the foundation of every decoy. It is not only a virtue, it is a weapon. When deployed with discipline, it invites your enemy to construct your image. They will see what they need to see. They will believe what comforts them. They will prepare for a target that does not exist. And by the time they discover this, you are behind them. To know stillness is to command attention without asking for it. To pull tension into your orbit simply by not responding. There is more pressure in a closed fist than a wild swing. There is more power in a breath held than a scream unleashed. And there is more control in the one who waits than the one who shouts first. The world may call your restraint weakness. That is how you know it is working. If they understood it, they would copy it. But it cannot be copied without the discipline beneath it. Anyone can pause. Few can pause with intention. Fewer still can pause with clarity. The rarest are those who pause and see all. I have trained entire armies to march in silence, not because sound is bad, but because discipline begins where the noise ends. If they can move without announcing themselves, they can think without interruption. If they can think without fear, they can strike without hesitation. Stillness is not the goal. It is the gate. Do not confuse movement with progress. Many chase forward only to return to the beginning. They mistake exhaustion for achievement. But I ask, what have you truly shaped? What ground have you truly held? The man who moves without knowing the terrain of his own mind is not a warrior. He is wind given form for a moment, then gone. Stillness remains. Stillness does not require a finish line. It is not driven by applause, by arrival, or by reward. It is driven by alignment, with timing, with necessity, with truth. If the battlefield feels chaotic, it is not because of the war. It is because you are not anchored. You have left the center to chase outcomes. But the general who returns to stillness regains command, even in the middle of loss, even in the middle of fire. Because fire cannot destroy what does not burn, and stillness does not burn. It absorbs, redirects, neutralizes. It does not panic. It processes. I have seen empires collapse from noise within, not because their enemies were stronger, but because they themselves forgot the value of pause. They forgot that every decision carries a weight, and that weight multiplies when made in haste. The wise ruler, the strategic mind, begins every action with one question. Is this moment mine? If not, he does not act. He waits until the hour bends toward him, not by luck, but by design. You will be asked to respond quickly. Decline. You will be told silence is weakness. Let them believe. You will be warned that waiting is dangerous. Good. Danger clarifies who is disciplined. You are not here to satisfy the impatient. You are here to survive them, outlast them, and ultimately shape the world they thought they ruled. Stillness sharpens everything it touches. It removes doubt, like wind removes dust. It turns confusion into pattern. It turns feeling into strategy. It teaches you that most things are not threats, they are tests. And a test does not require you to act. It requires you to know. Know what is real. Know what is noise. Know when your stillness is enough, and when your movement must be absolute. Let them throw their full force against your quiet. Let them interpret your silence as fragility. The louder they move, the more you gain. Their impatience is your preparation. Their fury is your forecast. And when they finally reach the edge of their effort, spent and disoriented, that is when you arrive. Not from a place of vengeance, but from completion. You do not react. You conclude. Stillness gives you the power to disappear without moving, to influence without announcing, to destroy without being seen. And when you do move, your presence carries more force than armies, because the world recognizes what it cannot predict. And there is nothing more ungovernable than a mind that acts only when it chooses, not when it is pulled. There is elegance in restraint. There is terror in precision. The one who moves little but achieves much is not a myth. He is the one who prepared while others postured. He is the one who listened while others performed. He is the one who knew the terrain of silence better than they knew the sound of their own voice. That is why he arrives not with noise, but with ending. Stillness is not to be shown. It is to be carried. It is not for others to understand. It is for you to embody. Let your presence be calm. Let your decisions be deliberate. Let your gaze be unreadable. Let your strategy begin before they know there is a contest. If you do this, you will never chase power. Power will orbit you. Do not be distracted by the dance of lesser wars. They are designed to pull you away from your center, from the real front, from the quiet place where strategy is born. Stay there, even when provoked, especially when provoked. Most threats die when ignored. Most fires burn out when denied air. And most enemies unravel when left to their own illusions. The master of stillness does not remove himself from the world. He enters it so fully that he no longer needs to prove anything to it. He no longer needs to answer every call, to correct every error, to punish every insult. He becomes the correction. His presence alone brings balance. Because he is no longer governed by motion, he governs it. You do not always need to push to win. Sometimes it is enough not to be moved. You do not always need to speak to lead. Sometimes it is enough that others quiet when you arrive. You do not always need to strike to finish. Sometimes It is enough to remain while others fall away. That is the power of stillness, not in its volume, but in its permanence. They will come with force. They will come with noise. They will come with distraction. You must come with none of these. You must come with breath, with thought, with awareness honed through waiting. You must come with presence, shaped not by impulse, but by observation. Then, you will arrive not as one among many, but as the one who has already seen the end. Every battle ends, every crown crumbles, every echo fades, but stillness remains, not because it wins, but because it does not depend on winning to exist. It is the element beneath conflict, the constant beneath change, the frame beneath the painting. You may rise, fall, rebuild, retreat, ascend, but the one who has mastered stillness is never truly shaken, because he has placed his foundation where others fear to look, within. I have seen men try to carry kingdoms on their shoulders, only to fall under their own urgency. I have seen emperors fight wars they could have ended with one quiet decision. I have seen commanders destroy their own army simply because they could not wait. And I have watched quiet minds, fewer in number, smaller in name, dismantle those empires piece by piece, not with legions, but with clarity, not with noise, but with time, not with rage, but with restraint. The world will ask you to declare who you are. Refuse. Let your stillness answer for you. Let your decisions form the shape others try to name. You are not a slogan. You are not a role. You are not a reaction to the moment. You are what remains when the moment has passed and the dust settles. You are the one who is still there, watching, knowing, choosing. The final counterattack is not a sword. It is a stance. It is the act of not becoming what the enemy needs you to be. It is the choice not to return fire when silence will blind them more. It is the decision not to argue, not to chase, not to explain, because you are already ahead of what they're reacting to. The greatest move is not always the one that lands. It is the one that ends the war before the war begins. I do not move with the wind. I move the wind, and I do so not with arms, but with absence. I place no weight where others press. I give no resistance where others expect tension. I let their force exhaust itself into the space I never occupied. And then, when the field is quiet, when the noise has eaten itself, I appear not with effort, but with conclusion. This is the way of the disciplined mind, to make no sound until the sound is final, to take no step until the step is irreversible, to hold no form until the form cannot be undone, and to know that each action, no matter how small, carves consequence. So choose few and make each cut true. The future belongs to those who can hold still while the world tries to pull them apart. In stillness, you become immune to urgency. In stillness, you learn what others miss. In stillness, you no longer ask what to do next. You simply wait until the answer arrives, as it always does, in the silence that remains when all the false strategies fall away. Let them wonder what you are thinking. Let them guess your next move. Let them become anxious in your calm. You owe no signal. You owe no forecast. Your direction is written not in words, but in presence. In the way you do not flinch. In the way you wait. In the way your discipline makes every step feel preordained. I have been called ruthless, but I do not seek destruction. I seek alignment. I do not crave victory. I prepare for it so thoroughly that when it happens, it feels like nature taking its course. No resistance, no panic, no celebration, just the unfolding of what always was. This is why I do not rush, because I do not fear the future. I meet it with eyes that have seen the pattern repeat for centuries. I meet it with silence that has survived 1,000 kings. I meet it with stillness, not to block it, but to shape it as it arrives. And so when they come again, louder, faster, more desperate than ever, I will not move. I will not answer. I will not bend. Because the one who remains still while others thrash is already defining the outcome, not by striking, but by making the strike irrelevant. This is how wars are truly won, not by those who fight the most, but by those who have nothing left to prove. I am Sun Tzu. Stillness is my counterattack.